To Lucienne's right, we're very pleased that Uncle Boogie Luvai, a longtime Makena resident, could be with us and share his mana'o. Thank you both. Lucienne, you've just completed a very massive, almost 500-page book, Project Ka'eo, and I'd like to start off with a quote dealing with the genesis of this study, of how it came to be. The quote is, "The planning consultant recommends that an exhaustive archaeological investigation precede any significant attempt materially to change the present physical makeup of land use in Makena. Only those particular land uses thoroughly compatible with the results of that investigation should be permitted or certainly promoted." And this quote is from the Kihei Makena Civic Plan, which was adopted in 1970 by the County of Maui Board of Supervisors, which was the precursor to our county council. It seems clear from your research that what's occurred over the past 38 years in Makena hasn't adhered to this recommendation. What should be done, and give us a time frame if you can, so that no further cultural losses are suffered in this area?
Oh, so I get the easy question first, right? Should be asking Boogie. He's been on this for so long. Welcome everybody, and I have to say I'm very grateful to be here, very honored to be here on the Makena Past panel, because I am not a person who is from this area. I was born in California. I appreciate Makena like everybody else, but I had an opportunity to research its history, and through that opportunity, I just came across so much interesting, not information, but vital, I feel, planning information that we all should know as we look to the future. So the future needs to connect to the past. The one thing that really kind of got me started on this was seeing this civic plan. And the civic plan made this statement about this being an extremely historical area. And I thought, well, great, let's look at all the different research that's been done. But again and again, as you saw research projects, they would talk about, this was a backwater, nothing really happened here. Yeah, it was a little fishing village, nobody important ever lived here, nothing important ever happened here. There's no big war hayhouse. And I thought, well, gosh, is that true? And so with the direction of Teresa Donham, who did the archaeological review part of this study, I started digging, and I realized that there's so many parts of the history of Makena, and I'm sure this is true for many areas on Maui, that just haven't been linked together. So we don't really know what the history was because no one linked together the little parts. And in order to do that, you actually need to look at historical preservation as a cultural landscape. You need to look at something that's bigger than just, well, this is a heiau. We don't want to knock it down. We want to leave it here. And it can be behind a fence, and therefore we've done our duty. That really doesn't serve a living culture. And I think, any Hawaiian you talk to, and all the ones I read in my research would agree, a living culture means that there is a possibility of present and future generations interacting with the sites that still remain from the past. And right now, we have just kind of like hurried through and decided that a few places that aren't in the way can be preserved, and the rest are kind of being like pushed under the table. There isn't even like sometimes any kind of modern research being done on them. They were looked at 30 years ago, and then we just moved on and said, we're through with this area, we're going on to another area to research. So one of the premises that I really see we need to do in the next few years is to evaluate what still remains in Makena that could create an entire living university for Hawaiians and non-Hawaiians alike. And I can tell you, everyone's interested in Hawaiian history, whether they're Hawaiian or not. I'm leading a hike on the 25th, if any of you want to participate. That will be the fishing villages of Wailea. And it just goes along the shoreline and what we call Wailea today, and talks about what used to be there and who used to live there and how long they lived there. And people love to just like know the stories. What's this pile of rocks? Why is there a gate around this little, enclosure here? Does it mean something? What does it connect to? So, I don't want to oversimplify this, but basically we've had a rush job on Makena, and we really need to do the proper research that was asked for before all the zoning was granted there. It was envisioned as a jewel that any construction would fit around it. And certainly there are places where this approach has been taken, and if Makena and Maui really deserve the best, then this is the approach that I think we need to ask for, that we find out what's there, we really get the stories from the people whose families have lived there. We can't know what we're seeing in terms of just walls and stone enclosures unless we talk to the people. A cultural history is about the people that live there, not about, how wide a wall is or how deep a pile of shell mitten you find. Also, we need to get away from history being a beauty contest. Sometimes places that look very, very humble have a great deal to teach us and have deep connections to the past. So we can't just judge things by saying, oh, all the walls are intact, so we should save this, when someplace else, just a little bit further away, might be very worthy as well. So we really need to move into the 21st century. We need to get information based on good, solid studies that are motivated by people who want to find out things. We have some mysteries in Makena that haven't been solved. We don't know if there were big inland locos or fish ponds there in the 1300s and 1200s and 1400s. If there were, that would explain why there's so many sites around that particular area. We could find out with paleobotany studies. So these things need to be done. That's my simple message. And we should start. We should start now. If we're planning for new developments, those studies should be done first.
Thank you, Lucienne. We've got more questions for you. But first I'd like to ask Uncle Boogie,